Welcome to Business Reports. Writing is a crucial form of communication in business. Accurate, concise, relevant, and complete written communication preserves knowledge and enables us to communicate at a great distance. The business letter, the memorandum, and the business report are all types of business writing. A business report is an important form of written communication and is often prepared in support of an oral communication of some kind. Good report writing can result in proposals that win contracts, advertisements that sell products, and instruction manuals that technicians can follow. On completion of this program, you will be equipped to write a high-impact report by yourself. Before we begin the program, let's preview the learning objectives. This program covers the 4 components of publishing a professional business report: foundation, planning, writing, and fine-tuning. In foundation, you will learn about the need for business reports, the types of business reports, and qualities of a good business report. In planning, you will learn how to determine the scope of the topic by analyzing the objective and the target audience. Collect and document research data, explore the need for filtering data, create conceptual signposts by developing an outline, and plan the amount of time, money, and personnel required to produce the report. In writing, you will discover the do's and don'ts of the use of language. Organize and write the report, including the introduction, core content, illustrations, conclusions, and recommendations, and identify the factors affecting report design. In fine-tuning, you will discover techniques to fine-tune the report, review the document from a macro perspective, and make the final changes to the report. Click on Foundation to begin the program.
Hello, I'm John. I've recently started working as a management trainee for Electronics Incorporated. This morning I received this memo from my boss asking me to prepare a report on employee involvement in medium-sized companies. Though I have studied report writing in my management school, I have never written an actual business report. However, in the course of this program, I hope to test what I've learned by putting it into practice.
Understand the base and then build. The base should be strong in order that the structure is steady. It is therefore essential to understand the very foundation on which the report is to be built. The better the understanding, the more comprehensive the resultant report. In this module, we will learn about the need for business reports, the types of business reports, and qualities of a good business report. The opportunity to write reports may arise on a routine basis, such as monthly or annual sales reports, on request from the top management on a specific topic, and as precedence to a proposal or as acceptance of a proposal.
The need for my report arose because management was grappling with the extent of employee involvement in management that would be appropriate for Electronics Incorporated.
Reports can be categorized in 2 ways. One way of categorization is whether the report is a standalone report or a supporting report. A standalone report is published and is not supplemented with an oral presentation. A supporting report usually accompanies an oral presentation, briefing, or lecture. Reports can also be classified according to the nature of the situation. They may be meeting reports. Annual meetings, board meetings, and other formal occasions may require reports. Progress reports. Employee performance appraisals are types of progress reports. Project reports. Reports are submitted during the course of a project and on completion of a project. Research reports. Surveys and research are all concluded with a report. And trip reports. These are executive summaries of business trips.
The report that I have to write is a standalone research type.
A high-impact report should have certain inherent qualities in it. We call them the 6 C's. Clear. Clarity of content can be achieved by writing in simple language, by using formal technical tone with minimum jargon, by accentuating the positive and the important points, and by pointing the way within and between issues. Concise. Be precise, since quality and not quantity is expected. Write to express, not to impress. Avoid redundancy of concepts and words. And make optimum use of space. Credible. Maintain academic integrity. And prefer the specific to the general. Consistent. Consistency of tone and matter is necessary. In order to achieve that, be organized and be mindful of the purpose and audience of the report. Comfortable. To ensure that the report makes easy reading, break the writing up into short blocks. Avoid big words and long sentences. Make appropriate use of units of measure, hyphens, punctuation, equations, grammar, symbols, capitalization, technical terms and abbreviations, and use visual aids throughout the report. Complete. Finally, the report should be self-explanatory, complete, and user-friendly. By following the 6 C's, your report will create a good and lasting impression and result in appropriate, positive, and constructive action. Now let's review the main points in building the foundation of a business report. We discussed the need for business reports. A report may be prepared as a routine activity, upon request, or in support of a presentation. We discovered the various types of business reports: standalone and supporting reports, and meeting, progress, project, research, and trip reports. And we analyzed the qualities of a good business report, the 6 C's: clear, concise, credible, consistent, comfortable, and complete. Let's try a quiz on classifying business reports. We will give you several scenarios. For each one, drag the ball to the point on the graph that forms the intersection between the 2 ways you can classify a report. Click on Start to begin. Let's review the C's of a quality report with this quiz. Complete the word below each question by dragging the appropriate alphabets to the appropriate squares. Click Evaluate when you are finished. Click on Start to begin. Now that we've completed foundation, let's move on to planning. Click on Planning to continue. The quality of a good report is directly proportional to the amount of planning. Planning is a prerequisite to any major activity. In the case of reports, planning results in a concise, complete, constructive, credible, courteous, clear, correct, comprehensive, and content-oriented report. In this module, we will learn about the steps to take before we sit at the computer or desk to write the report. First, we determine the scope of the report. Next, we conduct research. Then, we filter out information that is not useful or relevant. Finally, we develop an outline. And we determine the budget and calendar for the report. How can you determine the scope of the topic? By identifying the objective of the report, analyzing your intended audience and their information needs, interviewing those who are requesting the report, using their answers as a guide to research, and by putting yourself as much as possible in the reader's place as you work. By determining the scope, you understand the purpose and nature of the report, all relevant aspects of the topic, and the audience and its needs. The scope of the topic helps ensure that the style of the report is compatible with the background of the reader.
My first task is to determine the objective of the report. In order to establish the purpose of the assigned topic in a sentence or two, I decided to put forth a few questions to the liaison manager. Am I to evaluate the possibility of using employee involvement in this firm? Am I to determine the relationship between employee involvement and productivity? In order to clarify certain aspects about the target audience, I pose the following questions. Who is the intended audience? The top management, the government, or other firms in the same industry? Will the report be available to top, middle, and line management, or to support staff and production levels?
Once we have identified the scope, we conduct background research to gather data. There are two types of sources, primary and secondary. Primary sources are interviews, surveys, or the author's own knowledge and expertise. Secondary sources can be reports, books, journals, or magazines. This table shows the types of sources in the left column. Click on each type of source in the left column to reveal the rest of the row. Collecting data is not enough. It is important to document the sources of information. The documentation should include type of source, author, organization, title of document, publication, publisher, publication date, page numbers, and website. Documentation is important because you may need to go back to the information more than once. Readers can retrieve material if they wish to refer to them. You may require it for the bibliography and footnotes, and you may need it for future reference for a related project.
I used various sources like libraries, related industry sources, government sources, internet, interview schedules, questionnaires to be filled by managers, and above all, my own knowledge and experience. Naturally, I had more information than I could remember or keep track of, so I decided to document my sources for easy reference.
It is important to organize and prioritize the information derived from the background research in accordance with the objective of the report. When filtering your information, you should consider whether the information is accurate, whether the source is credible, and whether the material is current.
Since the data I had gathered was to be analyzed in terms of productivity, decision-making methods, efficiency, revenues, turnover, morale, and labor management relations, I decided to filter information into three categories: employee involvement in all companies, employee involvement in other countries, and workers' and management's view about the results of employee involvement.
Once we have researched and filtered the information, we are able to determine the outline, or in other words, the content layout of the report. The outline lists the most important aspects that the report will detail. The outline should be more than a table of contents. It should provide enough information to guide the writer and to determine whether the report covers its intended scope. You should have the outline approved by management before writing the report.
After prioritizing the information I gathered, I wrote the outline for the report. The outline of my topic had the following broad headings: definition of employee involvement, success or failure of such methods in similar firms over the past 5 or 10 years, comparison of US experience with that of Japan and Europe, worker and management attitudes and experience with employee involvement, evaluation of the issue in the context of the company, and recommendations. I got the outline approved by my superiors before I started writing.
The final step of the planning phase is formulating the budget and calendar for the report. The budget for the report should include personnel, research costs, materials, and distribution cost. The timeline of the report would detail the time taken for the various activities like planning, writing, reviewing, publication, and printing and distribution.
I estimated the following budget and calendar for my report.
Now let's go over the main features of planning a business report. We determine the scope of the report by identifying the objective, analyzing the audience and their needs. We identified primary and secondary sources of information and learned how to document the sources. We learned how to filter information by checking for accuracy, credibility, and relevance to the topic. We formulated an outline, in other words, the content layout of the report. Finally, we explored the budget and calendar for the report. Given below is a flow diagram. You will be given a series of questions about planning a report. Try to take the right decision by clicking on the appropriate box. Click on Start to begin. Now that we've covered planning, click on Writing to learn the details of writing a business report. Good reading makes hard writing. A good report is directly proportional to the amount of planning involved and characterized by good writing. It is always easier for business types to write in exhaustive and complex technical fashion than to engage in simple, interesting, and user-friendly writing. It is easy to use the spray and pray method, which means the writing style is exhaustive and laborious, resulting in tough times for the reader. Hard writing makes use of the filter and spray method, where the writing caters to the target audience's expectation and needs. Naturally, good reading is an offspring of the filter and spray method and not spray and pray. In this module, we will learn about the appropriate use of language, the organization of the report, including preliminary material, body of the report, and supplemental material, and the importance of report formatting and headings. Before writing the report, let's consider certain basic elements of good writing: choice of words, sentence construction, tense, spelling, abbreviations, and punctuation. Click on each element for more information. Make sure you understand the meanings of words and use them correctly. Avoid using words such as essentially and basically, and avoid a colloquial or chatty style, and the use of over-emphatic or sensitive words. Always write prose sentences with a subject, a verb, and an object. Write the report primarily in past tense unless it discusses upcoming events or projections. Use a spell checker and proofread the report for mistakes the spell checker will not pick up. Avoid using abbreviations such as etc. and example. Acronyms can be used if they're explained on first reference. For example, if you use the acronym USP, write Unique Sales Proposition USP the first time and then use USP. Think carefully about your use of punctuation, particularly the different purposes of commas, colons, and semicolons. Let's test your understanding of language use in a report. Read the synopsis and click on the type of mistake. Click Start when you are ready. Armed with an approved outline and the tools of writing, we are now ready to build the actual report. The materials to be included in the report can be divided into three broad categories: preliminary material, body, and supplemental material. Although this is the order in which the various elements will appear in the report, this is not the order in which you actually prepare the report. Click on each of the three to find out more. Preliminary material consists of title page, letter of authorization, letter of transmittal, table of contents, and an abstract, synopsis, or executive summary. The body contains introduction, core content with one or more chapters, conclusion, and recommendations. Supplemental material consists of bibliography and appendices. Why don't you try placing the elements in the order of preparation? Click and drag each element to the right side of the page to put it in the order of preparation. When you're done, click Done. The introduction describes the reason for the report. The introduction states the purpose of the report, methods of gathering data, sources of data, definitions, and a brief discussion of the report's organization. A good introduction should invoke readers' interest, give them some background information on the subject, and prepare readers for the core content of the report. The core content is where we write all the descriptions and analysis required of the report topic. Arrange the main points, body of evidence, information, issues, and discussions clearly, succinctly, and in simple order, signposted by chapters, headings, labels, and numbering. Divide the content into a number of chapters depending on the amount and diversity of information. You can organize the core content in different ways depending on the type of report. For example, an annual meeting report may include chapters on sales and marketing, finance, manufacturing, and administration. A performance appraisal or progress report should contain expected performance, actual performance, comparison between actual and expected performance, and factors affecting performance. A project report may include chapters on project potential, project progress, and project results. A research report contains the need for research, research methodology, and research results and analysis. A policy report may include chapters on issues or problems, analysis, and findings.
The first part of the content of my report dealt with the historical review of employee involvement in the United States, including introduction of employee involvement in U.S. firms, overall success and failure rate of the method, and comparison of U.S. and foreign programs focusing on Japan and Europe. The next part dealt with the evaluation of employee involvement in medium-sized firms, including interviews, questionnaires, and data from published literature, characteristics of successful and unsuccessful employee involvement initiatives, description of selected firms and explanation of their programs, and summary of findings. The core content includes the evaluation of the firm and employee involvement, elaborating on the current structure and organization of the firm, and the pros and cons of employee involvement at the firm.
Illustrations hold the key to a lively, interesting report. Graphs, tables, and photographs give a clearer view of the subject under discussion, since they break up the monotony of blocks of text, reinforce the message in the text, and enable a quick reader to obtain the main points. Let's see if you can connect the type of visual to what the visual shows. Drag and drop each visual to its proper slot. Click Start when you are ready. The following chart elaborates when a type of visual aid is put into use. Point your mouse over the visual to find out when it is used. Footnotes act as signposts to the source of the material, especially when another author or source is quoted verbatim. Footnotes are also used for definitions. Logical and practical conclusions must follow from the facts. The conclusion should contain the result of the patterns, trends, or observations derived from the research. Recommendations act as a stepping stone for conclusions to become suggestions for actions. Some reports may not require recommendations, such as a company's annual report. When developing recommendations, you should consider the following questions. What should be the outcome of the report? How do we achieve the desired outcome? And how can we persuade people to agree with our plan of action?
My report concludes that when implemented and administered properly, employee involvement improves a company's productivity, decision-making process, profits, morale, labor management relations, and development of human resources. It recommends that employee involvement be instituted in our company. It lists the conditions for instituting and administering the program successfully: commitment from management and labor leadership, selection of training and education programs, means of administering and phasing in the new system, and follow-up and monitoring. And finally, it estimates the time and cost to institute the program and get it running effectively.
Try this quick quiz on organizing the body of the report. Choose the right answer for each question. Click Start when you are ready. The bibliography lists all sources used in writing your report, so that readers can retrieve material if they wish. Include complete information on all books, reports, articles, documents, websites, and all other references. Alphabetize entries by the author's last name or by the document title in the format generally used by the organization. Include the names of individuals interviewed for the report, except those who wish to remain unidentified.
Here's the bibliography of my report.
This last section of the report contains information that support the body but is too lengthy or detailed to include in the text. Appendices may include charts, questionnaires, short reports or documents, explanations of statistical methods or computer programs using data, transcripts of interviews, or any other data that can clarify the content.
The appendix of my report included charts of 4 companies showing increase in productivity, morale and revenue, decrease in absenteeism, turnover, and labor management conflicts, questionnaires used and transcripts of selected interviews with workers and management in 4 companies, and a summary of historical data from government reports.
Now that you have written the report, you are in a position to write the abstract, also known as a synopsis or executive summary. Here are the characteristics of a good abstract. The abstract gives the reader a quick overview of the report. It summarizes the major points of the report along with the major conclusions. It provides enough information to specify the aims and results of your project. It is brief without omitting essential information. It reads in a fluid and easy style. The tone is consistent with the body of the report. Data or figures, if used, should be minimal and give the big picture. To save space, it makes appropriate use of abbreviations.
Here's the synopsis of my report.
The table of contents lists all the topics and materials in the report along with their page numbers. The layout should be clear and easy to follow.
The table of contents in my report contains the following entries.
The report should contain a letter or memorandum authorizing or requesting the report.
I included a copy of the memorandum I received from Mr. Jackson.
The letter of transmittal specifies the audience for the report. It may be written in the form of a regular business letter or memo. It may contain a list of all persons who will receive a copy of the report.
Here's the letter of transmittal in my report.
The title page contains all the identifying information such as the title of the report, company name, recipient's name, date, and author name. The title page should be in the standard format used by the organization for reports. Align the information at the bottom or the top third of the page.
The title page of my report looks like this.
After completing the first draft of the report, it is ready to be formatted. A well-written document can lose its charm with poor formatting. Formatting headings is of prime importance. Headings function as signposts for the reader. A quick reader should be able to see the shape of the paper simply by skimming the title and the headings. All headings at the same level must be grammatically parallel. Grammatically parallel means that there should be grammatical consistency among the headings. If you use a noun as a first-level heading, then all the other first-level headings should also be nouns, so that it is grammatically parallel. Major headings should be at least 4 points larger than the paragraph type that follows. Minor headings should be at least 2 points larger than the paragraph type that follows. Other aspects that should be considered while formatting are alignment, margin, line spacing, and numbering pages and illustrations. Identify the heading that is not grammatically parallel with the rest. Click Start when you are ready. Now let's review the cardinal elements of writing a good business report. We examine the use of language, including prudent choice of words, using past tense, proofreading, checking sentence construction and punctuation, and avoiding abbreviations. We discussed in detail the organization of the report, starting with the body of the report, introduction, core content, conclusion, and recommendations, moving on to the supplemental material, bibliography, appendixes, and finally the preliminary material, title, letters of authorization and transmittal, table of contents, and abstract. Finally, we looked at report formatting, paying attention to report design, using attractive and attention-capturing illustrations, and employing appropriate levels of headings. Having discussed writing the report, let's examine fine-tuning. Click on the topic to continue. You ask someone to look through a window at your garden and describe what he or she sees. You expect them to describe the garden, but instead, they remark upon the dirty window. When your words are not right, they are noticed, like a dirty window blocking the view. Quite often, the quality of your written material indicates the quality of your product, your company, and your work. If your document is important, make sure the writing is right. In this module on fine-tuning the report, we will learn about the different levels of editing, proofreading, general editing, and heavy editing, reviewing the report in its entirety, and reviewing each element and making final changes. The document is now ready to be fine-tuned before duplication and distribution. The first step for fine-tuning is editing. Editing activities fall into one of 3 general categories. Proofreading is the final review that involves correcting faulty grammar, word choice, and punctuation. General editing is a correction of the same elements as in proofreading, but also includes various developmental tasks such as paragraph reorganization, removal of unnecessary repetition, and the creation of a consistent style. Heavy editing is a comprehensive review and reworking of the material to improve overall organization, content, and writing, essentially moving the document from a rough creation state to a finished product. The more well-planned a report is, the less editing it requires. A well-planned report should require only proofreading, perhaps some general editing, but not heavy editing. The emphasis has so far been on the various modules of the report. Now it is ready to be viewed in its entirety. The elements of the report should finally come together to give a whole picture and create a synergistic effect on the target audience. Therefore, the document is reviewed in its entirety as a whole document now. The completed document is now ready for an overall review. While reviewing the report, identify if the following elements or attributes are present in your document. Click on each element for more information. Verify that the report achieves its plan and outline. Structured, and above all, invokes interest without the use of clichés and euphemisms. Verify that there has been a separation of opinions from facts. Also, check if any bad, sad, or unpopular information in the report is delivered diplomatically rather than too directly. Verify that the report does not make assumptions that are not stated or explained. Verify that plagiarism has been avoided. The incorporation of the work of someone else without proper attribution and reference constitutes plagiarism. Verify that appropriate footnotes and references have been given in the report. Verify that difficult technical terms have been defined clearly and abbreviations used appropriately. Verify that numbering and labeling have been done in a sequential and correct order. Verify that the report and section titles accurately reflect the matter discussed within their scope. Ask at least 3 people to read the manuscript and give their opinion. Verify that the report has the right sense of authority and urgency to motivate people into constructive action.
I formulated and used this checklist to fine-tune my report.
Now let's quickly go over the steps for fine-tuning the report. We discussed different levels of editing: proofreading, general editing, and heavy editing. We learned the need to review the report in its entirety, and we discussed appraising each element thoroughly and making any changes as necessary. Fill in the blanks by clicking on the best answer. Review the program and see if we can recall our learning. In Foundation, we probe the reasons for writing reports. We examine the various types of reports. And we explored the distinctive traits that must be present in a high-impact report. In Planning, we discussed the scope of the report. We explored the means through which we conduct background research and documentation techniques. We learned how to filter out information that is not relevant to the topic. We looked into developing an outline, and we understood the importance of budget and calendar for the report. In Writing, we learnt about the various elements of a report, and we examined each element in the order in which it is prepared rather than the order it appears in the report. In Fine-tuning, we learnt about various editing techniques. We understood the need to view the document design as a whole, and we identified the entities that must be present and those that must be absent in a good report. Now for the big one, to assess your comprehension of the entire program. Click on Start to begin the quiz. Now that you have become familiar with the report writing process, it is time to solve this crossword puzzle to evaluate your comprehension of the entire program. Drag and drop the appropriate alphabets to the appropriate cells. Click Evaluate when you are done.
Hi,